Former school resource officer Scot Peterson, who was accused of failing to confront a shooter during the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in Florida in 2018, has been acquitted of child neglect and negligence charges. Peterson, a 60-year-old Broward County Sheriff's deputy who was armed with a handgun at the time of the shooting, was criticized for taking cover instead of directly engaging the gunman. However, his defense team argued that he was being unfairly blamed and that the chaotic nature of the incident made it difficult for him to determine the source of the gunfire. The charges against Peterson included 7 counts of felony child neglect for 4 students who were killed and 3 who were injured. 3 counts of misdemeanor culpable negligence for a teacher and an adult student who were killed, and perjury for allegedly lying to investigators about his actions during the shooting. After more than 19 hours of jury deliberations over 4 days, Peterson was acquitted on all counts. Upon hearing the verdict, Peterson displayed a mix of emotions, shedding tears and putting his head down on the table. He expressed relief outside the courtroom, stating that he felt he had regained his life after enduring an emotional roller coaster for so long. Peterson acknowledged the tragedy of the massacre and emphasized that the only person to blame was the perpetrator. He maintained that everyone involved did their best with the information they had. Peterson also expressed his willingness to speak with the families of the victims, offering them the truth about the events that unfolded that day. However, the father of one of the victims, Tony Montalto, disagreed with the verdict and believed that Peterson should be haunted by his inaction. Montalto expressed his skepticism about Peterson's offer to talk, stating that nothing could bring back his daughter and that there was no point in engaging with him. The Parkland shooting, which resulted in the deaths of 17 people, including students and staff members, was the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. The perpetrator, Nicolas Cruz, received a life sentence after the jury failed to reach a unanimous decision on the death penalty. History to go to trial. Surveillance footage showed Peterson leaving his office approximately 36 seconds after the shooting began and arriving at the building where the shooting took place a minute later. However, Peterson did not enter the building or engage with the shooter, accompanied by 2 unarmed civilian security guards. Instead, he took cover in an alcove of a neighboring building, gun drawn, and remained there for about 40 minutes after the shooting had ended. Prosecutors argue that Peterson knew where the shots were coming from but chose not to confront the shooter. They presented security videos and testimony from various witnesses to support their claims. In order to secure a conviction for child neglect, the prosecution needed to demonstrate that Peterson was in a caregiving position for the children who were killed and injured. Peterson's defense contended that he was not responsible for the students' day-to-day care and, therefore, should not be considered their caregiver. During the trial, it was revealed that Peterson had received training on how to respond to an active shooter and had been taught to confront the perpetrator even if he was alone and without backup. Prosecution witnesses testified that Peterson would have seen the victims' bodies if he had opened the door to the building and looked inside. The defense, however, argued that Peterson couldn't accurately determine the shooter's location due to echoes and suggested that he believed the shots were being fired from outside the building. History where a law enforcement officer has been criminally prosecuted for failing to act during a school shooting. The acquittal of Peterson marks the first instance in U.S. The National Association of School Resource Officers stated that it was not aware of any similar cases involving officers being charged for inaction during such incidents. Peterson's attorney, Mark Heigelarsh, hailed the verdict as a victory for law enforcement officers across the country, defending their actions in difficult situations and criticizing prosecutors for second-guessing their decisions.